All right, we're back. Week 7 in the books. And hello everybody, welcome back to another YouTube video. If you are new to the channel, I upload basically every week and I recap the NFL. And if you do enjoy the content, subscribe and drop a like. That's only if you enjoyed it. You don't have to. It's free to support me, and you don't have to do anything. So, with that being said, though, I'm excited for this week's episode. I think the number one thing I'm excited to talk about is the Niners and the Vikings, but that's going to be at the end of the video, so make sure to stick around. And as always, the timestamps are going to be in the description, so that way you can skip around to any different topics I'm talking about to just see what I have to say. So, yeah, man, what a great week. And obviously, you guys know I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, and we got to start off with the Dolphins and Eagles game. Sunday Night Football, 8:20 in Philadelphia. Dolphins did not get it done. They did not. They got beat. They got beat pretty well. I'm going to be honest. It just goes to show that the Eagles are really one of, if not a top 3 team in the NFL right now. And they're slowly getting better week after week. They've had scrappy wins against some mediocre teams, but, they're getting better. But to start off, the Dolphins, the offense stalled a little bit, and Tua's performance wasn't the greatest. He had that pick. He had a couple throws that were inaccurate and behind receivers. And when he's pressured, he doesn't play the greatest. So, yeah. The Dolphins also could not run the ball. They couldn't establish a run whatsoever. I think they had like -8 rushing yards at one point. Oh, excuse me. Oh, so, yeah. But the Eagles, they have the #1 rush defense in the NFL. So it's no surprise there that they were able to stop the run so easily. But the Dolphins offense only put up 10 points. This high-flying offense, as they're calling it, the greatest show on surf, because, in Miami, people surf. So, yeah, to only put up 10 points against I believe the Eagles have the 18th ranked defense in the NFL, so below average. They couldn't even put up more than 10 points. The defense had to score 7 points for us. So, offense just couldn't get going. The Dolphins were down 3 offensive linemen, and they did miss Jalen Waddle for half the game. But they still need to play well, and I'm not going to make excuses. The Dolphins' offense should have played a lot better, but they just did not. And there's this trend going around now where, the Dolphins beat up on bad teams, and then when they play good teams, they lose. And they're not wrong. It's absolutely true. We've beaten the only good team I want to say that we've really beaten is the Chargers. And yeah. Then we beat the Panthers, the Giants, the Broncos. We put up 70, and then we lose to the Eagles by 14, and then we lose to the Bills by 28 points. So I don't know. I'm not tired. I'm not tired. It's just so. Right now, I'm like slouched, right? So I have to sit up and talk, and it like stretches my throat and makes me want to yawn because it stretches it. I don't know. But I'm not tired if I keep yawning. I just want to let you guys know I'm not tired. It just makes me yawn because I'm not breathing as much. A nice, good deep breath in there. But the Dolphins' defense, I thought, played fairly well. I mean, okay. They did give up 31 points, but the Dolphins' front was able to get pressure on Jalen Hurts and stop the rush, and they held the Eagles to under 100 yards rushing. And they did force 2 turnovers, but the Eagles averaged 150 rushing yards per game, so that's a win in the Dolphins' book. But they still gave up 31 points. The Dolphins secondary also was being cut thin, so we just could not stop the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts was just tearing us apart. And also penalties. There's a big thing about penalties. There definitely were a few penalties that were missed, but in the NFL, in football, there's pretty much a penalty on every play. So I'm not too upset about it, and I'm not one to really blame penalties. There was that face mask on fourth down. Oh man, wow. I don't know if you guys saw that. Like when you yawn, stuff comes out, but. There was that face mask, and then there was that roughing the passer was not roughing the passer. That was definitely a bad call. So, can I tilt this a little bit more? Ooh, okay, this is better. So, yeah, Penalties, I'm not going to blame. Just was not that good of a game. The Dolphins, they play the Patriots next week at home, I believe. And then we go to Germany to play the Chiefs. So if the Dolphins can win both of those games and bounce back, then they would be 7-2 and the number 1 seed in the AFC. And people would kind of look past the Eagles game a little bit more. Okay, that's more uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie. So let's move this a little bit more. There we go. So yeah, I think people will look past it a little bit more, but Dolphins really just need to bounce back. So now to talk about the Eagles. The Eagles played really good. I mean, they played really good football, really good team football. After Jalen Hurts threw that pick 6, the next 2 drives, touchdown. So nothing phases that man. You know, turnovers. He's still going to be himself. He's still going to drive down and really push the ball. And Hurts is really developing as a top passer in this league. I mean, coming into the NFL, I was not too fond of him being a passer, but he's developed. I mean, you got to give him his props. Yeah, he had his 2 turnovers, that fumble, and then that pick 6, which really is just a better defensive play. It's not like it was a bad pass. It was just someone jumped right in his face, batted it up, and then another guy caught it. But Jalen Hurts, man, he's playing really well. But the Eagles, like I said, they were not able to rush the ball that well, but they did score 31 points. So it's just kind of, it's a win-win. But the Eagles' offensive line was definitely tested again for the 2nd week in a row against the Jets and against the Dolphins. You could definitely tell their limits were pushed there. But the Eagles actually have one of the best offenses in football, and nobody's talking about them. Excuse me, that was a burp. The Eagles actually average 26.6 points per game, which ranks 4th in the NFL. So they're pretty high-scoring offense. Wow, excuse me. So yeah, they're a pretty good team, really good team win. Now the Eagles, they are 6-1, and they go and they play Washington and then Dallas, and then they head into their bye week. But those are 2 divisional games. Obviously, they're gonna rout Washington. To be honest, that team is not very good. And then the Dallas game, I think, is gonna be a really good game. But if they do win both of those games, they will improve to 8-1 going into their bye week. Then they can rest Jalen Hurts with his knee because he had a brace in the second half of the Dolphins game. They can rest their offensive linemen. Lane Johnson was out. Jason Kelce, I know he's been dealing with a couple of injuries. And, you know, a bye week is always really crucial, especially week 10. This is pretty much the midway mark where the Eagles are going to have their bye week. So it's going to be very crucial for them to get an extra 7 days off and just pretty much rest and recover. So Eagles going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. I think they go 13-4. So the next game we're going to be talking about here is the Jags versus the Saints game. This was a Thursday night game and was pretty entertaining. I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game, as most people did, but it ended up being really entertaining in the second half. The Jags, will start off with them. They got a really good team win. Both sides of the football stepped up, offense and defense. The offensive drives down the field to take the lead, and then the defense was able to stop the Saints in the red zone to win the game and kind of walk off there. So Trevor Lawrence was actually the leading rusher for the Jags, believe it or not, with 59 rushing yards ahead of Travis Etienne. So I thought that was pretty big. Trevor Lawrence is stepping up. You know, he had that bad game against the Texans, but since then he's been playing good. The Jags have now won 4 straight games, and they're 5-2, so they are rolling at number 1 in the AFC South. They play an AFC matchup in Pittsburgh next week, who are coming off a ginormous win in Los Angeles at SoFi Stadium. You know, a little controversial with, you know, the spotting there at 4th and 1, and then Brett Maher leaving 10 points out on the board. So either way, if the Jags can win that matchup against Pittsburgh, who is starting to find some momentum early here in the season, they could be 6-2 going into their bye week as one of the top teams in the AFC. So Jags looking good. Excited to see Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson. Man, he got such a bad rep and forced out of Philly. But Jags are 5-2. Nonetheless, they're looking like a really legitimate football team. And yeah, I'm loving what I'm seeing from them. Now to talk about the Saints. After getting a big statement win against New England in New England, winning 34-0. They have lost 2 straight games by 1 possession. So they're currently 3-4. It's not panic time yet. I would say if they do lose this next game, then it would be. But Derek Carr just needs to play better. You had that viral clip of him throwing the ball to Chris Olave and him getting frustrated. But he just needs to be a little bit more... What's the word? He needs to be quicker with his reads and where he wants to go with the football, I think, watching back that film. But he threw the ball 55 times, and he only had 1 interception, but 12 checkdowns or screen passes to Alvin Kamara. So you really don't want Alvin Kamara being your leading receiver when you have Chris Olave and Michael Thomas and Taysom Hill, who I think is very underrated as a pass catcher. But Saints are utilizing Taysom Hill perfectly, as I just said, but they're using him really good in run packages, using him as a blocker. They're lining him up in the slot kind of as a tight end, and his routes are really good. They're putting him at quarterback in wildcat formation. He's running the ball really well, so I really think they just need to continue to use Taysom Hill and push the ball downfield and kind of establish the run, because they couldn't get the run going as well. But now the next game I want to talk about here is the Browns versus the Colts. Man, this was a great game to watch if you watched it. I was on Red Zone, and it just felt like every 5 minutes it was touchdown here, Myles Garrett here, Gardner Minshew touchdown, turnover, and it was just such a great game to watch. Gardner Minshew really stepped up, 4 total touchdowns to only 1 interception. Man, he's such a good backup quarterback. He's probably the best backup in the league aside from I'm blanking. There's another really good backup in the league, but I cannot remember who it is. But both teams playing on backup quarterbacks with obviously P.J. Walker and the Browns. And then Gardner Minshew played fantastic. 305 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. Then you add on 29 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Man, he had himself a day. And you know who else had themselves a day? Myles Garrett. His stats here: 7 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 pass breakup, and 1 blocked field goal. I mean, he single-handedly won the game for them. He was absolutely phenomenal. And now Jonathan Taylor is back. Now he gets drug tested because he goes off 18 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown. Then 3 catches for 45 yards. Man, just superstars all around this game. Amari Cooper not involved as much, but Michael Pittman did step up a little bit. My cat is twitching in her sleep. But anyways, it was a great game to watch. A lot of back and forth. I loved it. Even though the Colts lost, I think it's a great moral victory for them. But we've been talking about the Browns on this channel a lot, and I've been saying that they're going to be a 10-7 team. And last week I told you guys that they're going to be playing 3 games before they go into their bye. And if they go 2-1, then they could be, they could be 6-3. But now they've beaten the Colts, and they're now 4-2. And then they have Seattle next week on the road, which I think they can win. So then they'll be 5-2. And a very tough AFC North with Baltimore also blowing out the Lions. I mean, the Browns have it. If Deshaun Watson just stays healthy for a game or 2, he was getting on such a roll there before he got injured. So I would like to see him continue to stay healthy and just really, bring this team together. But want to talk and continue to talk about crazy games. The Bills and the Patriots game. As a Dolphins fan, I was definitely rooting against the Bills, and the Patriots got a win. And let me show you guys something real quick. Mike Gesicki with the skedaddle. Woo! So let's autofocus. Okay, we're chilling. My cat got scared. I don't know where she went. Anyways, she went under my bed. But Mike Gesicki hit the skedaddle. Game-winning touchdown from Mac Daddy Jones McCordle. Shout out my boy Rob. But the Bills, let's start off with them. They took a tough divisional loss that they needed to win to go to 5-2. Now they're 4-3. But Josh Allen played a really good game, in my opinion. Go back and watch the film. I'm always going to tell you guys that. Go back and watch. He played a really good game, aside from that interception on the first drive. It's hard to believe that Allen was only sacked once, though, because it seemed like he was under pressure the entire night. But he was making really good plays, extending the plays with his legs. and pushing the ball downfield. I mean, Josh Allen is still playing really well. The Bills offense was able to move the ball a lot. They did only score, 25 points? But the two killers were that they missed a 42-yard field goal in the first half, and then they had a turnover on downs on 4th and 2 on the New England 33-yard line. Oh, yeah, excuse me. So they missed out on 6 points right there, and they lost by 4. But the Bills would be fine. I'm not worried at all about them. They're a top team in the NFC still, even though they lost. Good teams find ways to win, and I'm not worried. At the end of the season, the Bills are going to have 11 wins, and they're going to be hosting a playoff game. So, it's a win that you want back, but next week they play Tampa Bay at home, who have a really good defense, and they need to win this game. If they do lose this game, then you start to kind of scratch your head and wonder why the Bills that have Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and this offense, why are they 4-4 and they, losing to the Tampa Bay Bucks? Not that the Bucks aren't good, but you want to see the Bucks where the Bills win. They're a great team. I was rooting against the Bills, but I'm a football fan before anything. The Bills have a good football team. They're dealing with a lot of injuries in the secondary, and bottom line is they need to win this game against the Bucks, and I think they will. So, yeah. Now the Patriots, best game of the season by far. I mean, by far. They looked much better. Mac Jones played phenomenal. He looked confident in his throws. He was under pressure and was still delivering the ball off his back foot, knowing where to go with the football. I mean, man, he was delivering some throws there. Aside from his interception and that fumble, he was great. He was 25 of 30 for about 230 yards, I believe. So he played really well, really efficiently. And when the game was on the line, after he just fumbled the ball, he drove the Patriots all the way down the field and threw the game-winning touchdown to Mike Gesicki. So, Mac Jones is a good quarterback. He just gets a bad rep because the offense has not been playing great the last couple of weeks. But the last 2 weeks, they've been playing really well. And they get a very, very big statement win against a divisional opponent in the Buffalo Bills. So now, actually, they were able to run the ball as well. One thing I wanted to touch on. And Kendrick Bourne stepped up really big, I thought, getting one of those touchdowns. But now, the Patriots go into South Florida, into Miami to play them back-to-back divisional games. If somehow the Patriots can pull off this win, they would be, I believe, 2-1 in the division, and they would be 3-5 overall. So, start to slowly make a comeback, but they have to. They pretty much only can afford to lose 2 more games the rest of the season if they want to be, considered to make the playoffs. So anything is possible. Patriots are looking good, especially beating a top team in the Bills. So now the next game I want to talk about is the Packers-Broncos, but specifically just the Packers and Jordan Love. The Packers have now lost 3 straight games, and after starting okay, let me restart that. The Packers have now lost 3 straight games after starting 2-1, and I told you guys in weeks 1 and 2 of the podcast, I said Jordan Love is playing good, but let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes on him. And in Jordan Love's first 2 games, he threw for 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. In his last 5 games since then, 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So, telling you guys, he's trying to play hero ball a little bit too much, and he's a little, dare I say, too quick with his throws. He needs to just relax a little bit, and I don't know how to describe it, but it seems like he's rushing a lot of throws that he can make. So in the Packers' 3 losses, the biggest problem for them is scoring offense in the first half. So in their last 3 games, in the first half, this is how many points they've scored. So in the first half against the Lions, 3 points. In the first half against the Raiders, 3 points. And then this week against the Broncos, 0 points. So the biggest problem is their offense in the first half. In 3 games, the Packers averaged 2 points in the first half. So in 2, it's. But But now the Packers have now fallen to third in the NFC North, and they're falling out of the playoff race. When this season started off, everyone was saying, oh, the Packers are 2-1. They're going to be in charge with the Lions in this division. And now they've fallen to third because the Vikings got a massive win against the Minnesota Vikings. I think I just said that wrong. The Minnesota Vikings got a massive win against the San Francisco 49ers to improve to 3-4. So, yeah, the Packers need to win their next game at home versus the Vikings to stay alive. So that's going to be a divisional matchup. The Vikings win, then they're 4-4, and they're behind the Lions, and their hopes are still alive. But if the Packers lose, then they're 2-5, I believe, and wouldn't be looking too good for them. So, one game I did not write down here that I want to talk about is the Lions and Ravens game. Man, I don't think there's a lot of people that saw this kind of blowout coming. I know there were some people that picked the Ravens to win this game, but I don't think there's anyone on this earth that would have picked them to win by that fashion. I mean, you had everything going for the Ravens offensively and defensively on both sides of the ball and special teams. Lamar Jackson, 21 of 27, 357 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown with 36 rushing yards. So this man Lamar pretty much completed, 80% of his passes? For 400 total yards and 4 touchdowns. So, I mean, he had himself a day. And I keep saying this, maturing as a passer in the league. He is a top 10 passer, looking phenomenal. He had a 95 QBR, and the highest you can get is 100. So, he was great. The Ravens front four definitely applied pressure on one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. I think the Lions had a top 5 offensive line going into this week. So Lions just couldn't get anything going offensively too much. Let me see here a little bit. Punt, turnover on downs. Then they finally scored a touchdown and turnover on downs. I mean, I was watching this game on Red Zone, so it just kept popping back and forth, and the Lions just kept punting, and they couldn't get anything going because Jared Goff was under a ton of pressure. He got sacked 5 times for 31 yards, and yeah. But the Lions will bounce back. Let's see who they play next. This is one I didn't take notes on. They play the Raiders next, which will be it's a night game. It's going to be Monday night, this next Monday night. So I think they win that game. Then they improve to 6-2. So I'm not too worried about them there. But definitely a shocking game nonetheless. I don't think anyone was expecting that. So now, moving on to the game I could not wait to talk about. I'm tripping over my words here. The 49ers and the freaking Vikings. Man, Vikings get a massive win at home against arguably a top 5 team in the NFL in the San Francisco 49ers. And the Vikings offensive line played fantastic. I was talking about how this line needs to get better, and they stepped up huge, allowing 0 sacks on Kirk Cousins. He was still pressured. Well, let's not get it twisted. He was still pressured, but Kirk Cousins played phenomenal. He played amazing, making throws off his back foot, knowing where to go with the football pre-snap, and, just fitting the ball in perfect windows. He did have that interception, and the other one was almost intercepted, but Kirk Cousins is definitely playing the best football he's played in his career, period. So, Kirk Cousins, reminder, with no Justin Jefferson, and they only punted once and they missed a field goal. So pretty much in scoring position against the number 2 defense in the NFL. I mean, that's got to tell you something. Kirk was phenomenal. He's a top 10 quarterback. His stats was 35 of 45 for 375 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this might be a hot take, but the Minnesota Vikings losing Justin Jefferson was the best thing that could have happened to them. Now, they haven't lost him for the season. He's on IR for 4 weeks. But I say this because now the Vikings have found more weapons that yielded results during games in Jordan Addison, 7 catches for 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Powell stepped up, 4 catches for 64 yards. Then KJ Osborne finally stepped up, 5 catches for 47 yards. So it was just beautiful football. Vikings, great team win. Obviously it's hard to stop Christian McCaffrey. and Brandon Ayuk and Brock Purdy, but they did not have Deebo Samuel. But still, a great win for the Minnesota Vikings. They started the season 0-3, and they're now 3-4. Now, like I mentioned before, they go and they play the Green Bay Packers. If they win this, they will have won 4 of their last 5 games. And man, I hope the Vikings can pull this off. I'm being honest. I'm getting goosebumps right now. The Vikings, man, massive win. I thought their season was over. I even made a couple videos on it. Excuse me. Could not be more excited for them. So now let's talk about the 49ers. I'm not worried. They're one of the best teams in the NFL without Deebo Samuel. But it was a close game. And I thought Brock Purdy did play well. He was making really good throws. He had those 2 interceptions on the last 2 drives in the fourth quarter. You know, he wishes he had those back. But the Niners offense was able to move the ball, and they did have a missed field goal as well. But they moved the football. So let's not get it twisted. But the Niners defense looks like they got compromised without Justin Jefferson. They allowed 22 points and 452 total yards. You don't really see that out of the number 2 defense in the NFL. But now they play the Bengals, who are coming off a bye week. Joe Burrow getting healthy. That offensive line getting healthy. T. Higgins going to be healthy. Now you have Jamar Chase, who's always open. You have Tyler Boyd, who's healthy. You have Joe Mixon, who's healthy. So I think this is going to be a really good matchup. 49ers losing 2 straight. The Bengals winning 2 straight. So who's going to break what streak? I'm excited to watch that game. Definitely going to be tuned in to watch it. But I think the Niners win in a game-winning field goal this time, if I'm being honest. So, yeah. But that is going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. I really do love doing these videos. If you have anything that you want me to talk about, drop it in the comments below. If you want to be a guest on my podcast, drop it in the comments below. Shoot me a text, message me, let me know, and we can work something out. Just come prepared. So, yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, I will see you all next week. Peace.